I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Our rat's ass about Twitter.
Oh, he has trouble with the spin, and the ball is free.
Cast starts going, all crazy. And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to not another CFB pod. This is the divisional round of the playoffs. This is your weekend preview and pick show. I can't wait, Beast. I mean, we got so many great games lined up here. Obviously, best of the best, cream of the crop. How we feeling, dude?
Feeling good, fired up. I just can't wait for the weekend to start, like you said.
Yes.
It's tough when it's like that middle of the week, and we're still, even though we're recording this Thursday night, we're still 2 days out. So I'm glad that we have Saturday games, because I don't know if I could hold out till Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, man. They did a good job with the scheduling, I'll say. So we got a Saturday afternoon game, Saturday evening game, and obviously our Sunday games.
Yep.
Can't go wrong. So going to be an electric slate. I can't wait to get into this one. Just wanted to say, Beast and I were talking off camera. I think we have a play on every one of these games, basically. So we're going to try to do our best to break down all the games and then give the picks afterwards. But can't wait. Should we just jump right in?
Yeah, might as well, man.
Okay, so your first game this weekend, I actually think it's a sneaky, decent game. Jaguars, Chiefs. Chiefs right around 9-point favorites, which is a really high number for the playoffs. Obviously, the Chiefs had a bye last week, so we don't know what they looked like. But, I mean, they had a great season. They got the 1 seed a little bit by technicality, but still. And you may know this. Now, if they would have done something different and Bills would have played out and Bills would have won, wouldn't either one of those teams have won tiebreakers over the Chiefs? Isn't that right?
Maybe. So they
I
might
think
have
the Bills
gotten
do for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to say the Bengals might too.
So who knows? Yeah, this may be a matchup that wasn't even necessarily originally thought was going to happen. So
I think it's low-key interesting, man. That's kind of what I was getting at. Now, the weather I want to mention is going to be pretty cold, 40 degrees, windy, snowy kind of conditions potentially. I mean, it's hard to say that favors either team, but I like the way Jaguars can potentially run the ball with ETN. We'll see. We're going to have some props for you guys coming on the show too. Didn't even mention that. Excited about props. But yeah, so this is for me. I do have a play on the spread, but also want to look at potentially doing a space before this. We'll just have to see how everything lays out. But I want to get some of those player props in that we've been firing on the live spaces, man.
Yeah, this is one of those games that they played earlier this year, and it was a 10-point Chiefs win.
24-14 if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, something like that. It was not a super high scoring game. But the thing that you mentioned is, the Chiefs just had a week off, which could be very good, but it could also be very bad. Sometimes a team takes a week off and they come out a little bit flat. I wouldn't be shocked if Jacksonville hung around in this game, at least for the first half at minimum. But it's also hard because betting against Pat Mahomes is kind of a scary thought sometimes. And Andy Reid, and they got a lot of dogs themselves. I'll have a play in this game. It's not really a spread or anything, so it'll be a prop. So it'll kind of have something fun to kind of have on the side.
I just thought we'd mention this point. I was listening to a podcast that I enjoy, and it's like an NFL kind of picks, mostly podcast, almost strictly picks. Yeah. But one thing they said is they lined it up and they were like, normally when the Chiefs play, they've got this huge advantage in the coaching department, and it's actually the opposite. Like, he was basically saying that Doug Marrone was clearly a better coach than Andy Reid. I'm like, dude, Andy Reid's not a bad coach. I mean, you could say that is going to be even or whatever because, the other coaches obviously won a Super Bowl as well, but I don't think there's any clear advantage in the coaching department for this one. Just kind of wanted to set that up. I think both coaches are great, so we could see fireworks.
Right. Yeah, I give Peterson some credit for what he's done with Jacksonville this year, but I mean, both him and Andy Reid, solid coaches. So we'll see. You're right. It could get a little. They might bring in some different stuff up their sleeves. You know what I mean?
So did I say Doug Marrone?
Yeah.
I meant Doug Peterson. So Marrone, I think, was their former coach, and then I basically combined those two together.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I
Doug
figured.
Peterson, shout out Doug Peterson. He's a good coach. I appreciate Beast for picking me up right there. That was huge. Oh man. Okay, Let's move on. That game's going to be fun, though. Low-key, sneaky, fun game. But then at 7:15, Giants, Eagles. Personally have a lot invested in this because kind of no matter who loses, like it's kind of good for me just to I get to laugh at somebody. The Eagles fans have been mean to me all year. Our Giants fans have been mean to me all year. One of you guys is going down. Don't be surprised if I'm in demon mode after this game. We're going to be looking at about what, 10:15, 10:30, something like that. I mean, maybe a little later even. Yeah. One of you guys is going down and one of you guys is getting slandered. Be ready for the Twitter space there on Saturday night because but the actual game itself, I think is going to be awesome. These teams have played twice already. Philly won both times. One time the game was completely meaningless. Giants weren't playing their starters. The other time was a lot earlier in the season when the Eagles were really just blowing everybody out.
Yeah.
The Giants were pretty bad early on. So, or at least not where they are now. I'm interested to see how healthy is Jalen Hurts. He's been removed from the injury report. And if he's completely healthy, it's going to be really hard to stop the Eagles. But my thing in the back of my head, I love Jalen Hurts, by the way. People will say that I hate him, or something stupid, but it just for whatever reason, I guess because I don't pick him every game, I hate him. But if he's healthy, this team is different because when he can add his legs in, he's confident that even if he takes a hit, his shoulder's not going to get hurt again. He's obviously slinging the rock really well. He's got great receivers on the outside. I've got a prop on one of the receivers in this game. I like the Giants to probably win, but honestly not be shocked if the Giants kept it close. What do you think?
No, I mean, you're spot on with the take that it's just all going to depend how healthy Jalen Hurts is. We know he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league when he is healthy, or at least I think so, just because of that dual threat ability that he has. He's one of the tougher guys to stop. Like, it's really hard to game plan if you don't have, a solid defense to bring in. It's going to be tough. And it is tough to beat a team 3 times. So I think that there is something to be kind of said about Philly, being so good early in the season. Giants, man, we said last week, Dable gets these guys just playing way, way, way better than they should probably. And that Eagles team that you talked about that was blowing everybody out early in the season, I'm not so sure they're playing like that right now. They're still playing really good ball, but they're not blowing everybody and anybody out. So maybe the Giants hang around. I hope they do.
And the other thing is the Eagles could be back. We just haven't seen them play because they've been on a bye week, which is great for them. And then the last time we saw them, Jalen Hurts was playing, but it was against reserves for the Giants.
Right.
So we don't really know what they were coming with, towards the end of the season. They finally did win a game that sealed them this number 1 seed and bought them this bye week. It's going to be a rest versus rust thing. Now, I listen to some pro players talk about this, the whole, does the team get a week off? Is that really an advantage? Or they kind of he said, I always prefer getting rest just because you're not beat up, you're not taking lots of hits. I think the only scenario where I would really worry about rust is if those starters for Philly hadn't played in that last game of the season. That's when you go, okay, because they rested guys in other weeks leading up to that last week, but thankfully they got some reps in with the number 1s. So we'll see. I like Philly here. I think home field advantage is a big thing in this series as well. Don't have the series numbers. That's kind of a beast thing. He's the numbers guy more than me, but just kind of a sharp guy. He retains these things easier than I do. I got to study them 10 times. But yeah, fun game there on Saturday night. Can't wait for that one. Like I said, try to do some spaces around that game. It's going to be fun. So join us. And you don't even have to say anything in there if you just want to sit in a lot of people just sitting there and listen. So if you're not talking, don't feel bad. Just hang out. It's a good time.
I just know for a fact if the Eagles lose on Saturday night, PG is going to be insufferable.
I might be.
He's going to love that, man. Because, I mean, it's one thing if the Giants lose, but the Eagles, I feel like, are the bigger rival to the Cowboys.
Definitely that. And then I also think I just have so many Eagle fan followers that I'm friends with, but dude, they give me a hard time. I almost never say anything bad about them. They always come to me. If I say I think Dak's better than people think, or retweet some article, I'm always getting crap. I'm constantly getting crap. So I got to give some degree of that back. I haven't decided how much yet. It just depends on how the night unfolds. It's a cold run classic on Sunday night, divisional rivalry in the divisional round. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. And then we move on to Sunday. So things even get, I think, even better from here. This is where we have two of our closer spreads. I think the NFL did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Who really knows? Starting with our Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park in New York. And I say our Buffalo Bills, they're really mine, but I feel like Beast kind of appreciates them too, just what Josh Allen and all these guys can do. Stephon Diggs. I mean, it's just a fun team to root for, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's just because I have good friends like Meerkat and where I've like followed the Bills on TikTok for a while. They're a great, like a social account to follow, even if you're not like a main tier fan. And I'm rocking my Josh Allen shirt that got sent to me by our good friend Captain on Twitter. I think his name is Cody Official, the address, but I retweeted him all the time and I tweet him. I tweeted him just today, so you can find him. He's a good kid. Okay, so talking about the game. Bengals, Bills, 5.5-point favorites. The Bills are. Some people say it's going to go to 6 by kickoff. We'll just wait and see. I've got to play on the spread on this game. Joe Burrow and the boys coming in with all the swag into Buffalo. I can't wait for this game. I mean, this is a lot of people would argue that the top 3 teams in the AFC are the best teams, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. So you're looking at basically what a lot of people think is the first and second, or second and third, or however you want to do it, but top 3 matchup here in the playoffs, on CBS. What are you thinking about this game?
Well, this is the matchup that Bills fans wanted last year in that AFC championship, and Kansas City got to play Bengals, and then obviously we saw the Bengals go on.
Bengals play really well against the Chiefs. Just everybody remember that for future reference.
That's true. Yeah, so if the Bengals do make it through, that is something to kind of keep in mind. But I think the Bills fans last year probably were sitting at home thinking, would Josh Allen have beat Burrow in this matchup last year? I don't know if that really would have happened, but the Bills definitely had to have been watching that, thinking this should have been our matchup. This shouldn't have been Mahomes and Casey. It should have been us. And they felt like probably, this Burrow kid is getting all this hype. Maybe they felt like they should have been in that spot last year. They should have been the ones in the Super Bowl, whatever the case. I think the Bills going into this game super fired up. But you can't count out Burrow, especially right now. Burrow has that full season of last year's playoffs under his belt. They were talking about it a little bit on the radio today. They were like, Burrow almost looks a little bit more cool, calm, and collected. Whereas like last year, I think he was kind of just it was Joe Cool. Like he was like showing up with chains. Yeah, that's true too. So I think, right now, if Burrow comes in and he kind of just has that kind of same swagger where he's not afraid of any matchup, this could be a really tough one for the Bills. So it's going to be a fun game. I'll have a play on this one as well. So we're fired up all around. This is going to be a great start to Sunday, man.
Top 3 matchup. And I was just going to run it by you because I don't know how much of it you've seen, but Joe Mixon, I can't remember. Maybe it was the coach or Joe Burrow. A couple of players have said some really spicy things about this matchup, about them being the underdogs, and they should ever be the underdogs because they're the AFC champs from last year. And it's a little bit spicy, and I really wonder. I wouldn't be shocked, at least, if we see our guy DeMar Hamlin back on the side, or maybe not on the sidelines, but in the stadium. I don't know. You'd be more of the expert on if he'd.
We'd have to get some updates. Yeah, I have no idea what.
I mean, he's been released. I think at this point, like he's at home, but I don't know if that means he's on oxygen. I don't know. You're the guy on all that stuff. But what I will say is, if he was in the stadium, man, that's going to be some great TV. It's going to be one of those like. It's almost too good to be true, like almost NFL scripted kind of storylines,
right?
Like an amazing comeback for the kid just to be in the stadium after playing this same team a few weeks back and being pronounced basically dead on the field. So,
right.
But
even if they just had like a video of him, like a pregame video that they put on, that would be electric too. So
video, you're right. And they'll surely do that. Like I said, the Bills kind of all around social team, all that stuff. I think they're really also big fans of the team, and I think it makes the content a little better. I don't know. Just maybe me reading into it too much. But that being said, man, the Bengals can easily play spoilers in this one, and they've got a dang good team too. So even though it's a 5.5, 6-point spread, whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing went down to overtime or, the last couple possessions. So we'll just have to see. All right. Then wraps up Sunday, the last game of the weekend. Cowboys going to San Francisco, taking on the 49ers. I'm worried, Beast, because I feel way too good about the Cowboys right now. You know how like it happens in NFL, and it kind of happened to us with the Lions when the Lions were winning. We're like, we're gonna maybe make the playoffs, these Lions, and started to feel really good, and nothing could go wrong. That's kind of where I'm at right now, and that's typically when the NFL crushes you, right? The Seahawks get a bunch of calls in the fourth quarter and overtime, and end up beating the freaking Rams in overtime. That's what's gonna. I'm afraid that's what's gonna happen to me. I'm not gonna say it's what's gonna happen, but I like the Cowboys' chances personally. I've seen a lot of Brock Purdy in my day, and he's having a great run in the NFL. I'll break this down a little bit later because I have a play on this game. But some of the defenses that Purdy's faced so far, maybe a little not the best teams, but again, still impressive what he's done. They moved on next round, beat a division rival in the Seahawks pretty handily, might I add. They're up to the challenge. Cowboys, 4-point underdogs. I mean, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, my main thought is just if Dallas plays like they did last week, where they just absolutely put it to, my thing is, the Bucks. Yeah, like if Dallas can put all of the pieces together, they have the guys and they have the team. It's just about, are we going to get all that? They looked phenomenal against the Bucks. I thought that was one of their best performances of the season. Especially on defense, like I would say that for sure. That was the big thing I had mentioned, like on our review show early in the week. So that defense looked great. You're going to have some good defense if you're going to want to kind of hang around in this game, because San Francisco's defense is obviously so good too. I'll have a play. I'll break down a little bit more, kind of get into defenses. But yeah, I think that San Francisco, if it wasn't for their defense, I think they'd be a very middle of the road team, but their defense just is so good right now. It almost reminds me of like, I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Peyton Manning at all, but Peyton Manning's last year with Denver, he was not that good. Everybody kind of like, you can look back at his numbers. He was not that good in his last season for
the
Denver.
ball at all.
No, he couldn't. Honestly, like Brock Osweiler and those guys almost took his job, but they just kind of stuck with him. And they were just kind of skipping through like, the season and the playoffs, but it was that defense was just doing everything for that team. I'm not saying like Brock Purdy's Peyton Manning, but Brock Purdy, I don't think is that most outstanding quarterback, but that defense just carries him. He doesn't have to be that good. You could be like the 15th best quarterback in the league and you're still going to be fine. So we'll see what we get out of this, this defense, I guess, but I'll have a play on this one. So I'm excited to break that one down.
Yeah, obviously I'm shocked or just excited for this matchup as a fan. I kind of thought we'd end up playing, I thought maybe the Vikings would pull it out, and so that would set us up playing the Eagles. So I was kind of ready to play the Eagles, but I actually love this matchup because I really think the Cowboys defensive line can get after them. Now, they've got a really good offensive line there in San Francisco, but Cowboys got some dogs, and they're not afraid to blitz a couple guys or two too. Yeah. So they put some heat on you, and it just takes a couple times as a rookie to get hit, and you're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And in fact, if you kind of look back the way Brock Purdy played in college, that's a lot of time. When he had plenty of time, he was dang good. But as soon as you started hitting him, making him constantly scramble, that's when the decision-making kind of slipped, and maybe he was trying to be a hero. But again, that defense of the 49ers, he doesn't have to do too much. If he just plays game manager, they've got a really good shot in this one. So yes, excited to hear what your play is. Excited to get into the picks, really.
Yeah, of course, man.
Are we ready to just hop into the weeds, get right into the picks? Now, all our games are kind of mainstream, so I would kind of call our in the weeds. Like mine's going to be a prop,
Me
but
too.
It's a prop that I'm really excited about. So if you want to lead us off, you can go for it.
For sure. So I'm going to go to that Chiefs game. I'm really looking at Isaiah Pacheco this week. The rookie, a lot of people probably aren't super familiar with him. And honestly, the Chiefs always kind of do these bounce around with multiple running backs. But I like Pacheco this week to go over 48.5 rushing yards.
I love it.
It's funny because like the Chiefs do use a lot of running backs, but Pacheco gets his still. You know what I mean? Like last few weeks, I guess, really. So he's went over this number in what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the last 8 weeks, maybe more than that. So I'm looking at like his last, 10 games, and he just number after number after number. And one of the big ones is that game against Jacksonville, where he had 82 yards. He was ripping off 5.1 yards per carry. Even in that last regular season game when they were playing Vegas, they only gave him 8 carries, and he put 64 yards together. So I mean, he's one of those guys that he's fast. He can kind of get yards on the ground. They have a nice offensive line with Kansas City. If Mahomes is slinging the ball, they can kind of bring him in. He kind of brings a different kind of change of pace. Everybody's high on McKinnon, and I feel like that's because of the whole fantasy football thing where McKinnon's getting all these fantasy points for everybody. But Pacheco's a very solid running back himself, and to only ask for 49 yards rushing, that's nothing to me, especially when you consider the last time he's really missed that. He had the game against Denver 2 weeks ago, and then prior to that, you'd have to go all the way back to like the start of November. So since the start of November, he's had one game where he hasn't went over this, which is like nuts. So I think we're gonna get 50 yards rushing out of him easy. I wouldn't be shocked if he was closer to like 60, 70 yards. He's a solid running back, and I think he's just getting better with each game.
I like that, and I'm tailing for sure, because you talked me right into it. The guy like that he just needs like one big play to get that. Right. He's the guy, and he's just one of those like freaks as far as like his speed is just 0 to 100. So that explosion factor is always there. So I'm going to Devontae Smith receiving yards. So I'm going his over 64.5. He hit this number both times they played the Giants. The thing with the Giants is they like to play man-to-man, and Devontae Smith is very fast. He's basically built to beat man. Now, obviously, he can beat zone coverage too, but how quick he is, he's powerful with his hands. He's meant to – I feel like his better attribute is going against man-to-man. Again, he's been averaging well over this number since like week 11, I think they said. So a lot of that was even without Jalen Hurts. So he hit this number both times against the Giants. He's back at home. They're going to be focused on A.J. Brown there in Philly. So I like our guy Devontae Smith. He's the guy that gets all the little screen passes, all the little, I don't want to call them gadget plays, but that's kind of what they are, the little forward pass end around kind of plays. So he's the guy. He's going to get the targets. He's going to hit this over 64.5.
Yeah, no, I think that's another guy that with his speed, if he gets just one or two big plays where, you throw a wide receiver screen or you throw a slant or something and he just cuts up field, I mean, he could pop off 35, 40 yards, real quick, and it would be like just nothing for him. So I like that a lot. A couple good props kind of out there. So I'm going to go to the Bills game for my next play. I'm going to take Bills -5.5 against Cincinnati. It's scary going against Burrow after seeing what he did in the playoffs last year, but I really like the Bills this week. I actually think it's very beneficial for us that they didn't play that well against Miami last week, because I think we got a better number due to that. And I think that was probably a little bit of a wake-up call of like, hey, if we weren't versing Skylar Thompson and a very kind of just rough-looking offense last week, we very well could have lost that game and had a first-round exit. So that probably woke them up, in my opinion. When you look at this Bills team, outside of that performance last week, we saw them play so much better football for a lot of the year. I mean, number 2 scoring offense in the league, number 3 scoring defense in the league, just solid on both sides of the ball. I think Josh Allen, I know a lot of talk has been about he's been playing a little bit loose with the football at times. Hey, I'm okay with it. I think they're going to be slinging the ball around. I really do think they roll in this game. I would not be shocked if the Bills came out and they won by, 9-10 points. But if you're only asking me for a 6-point win, I think they get that done all day. Maybe I'm just buying up the Bills a little bit too much just based on stuff I saw in the regular season. But I thought last week was a little bit of a fluke. So I'm going to roll with them this week. I think they could win this game by 6. And everybody's going to probably be, wanting Burrow to do good. But I don't see it this week, man. I just don't.
Yeah, I like Burrow. Let me start by saying that. I'm on this play too, so I'll go ahead and go through my little thing. You hit on a lot of the football angles. The only other thing I really want to hit on is a couple things, which is, number one, I think we're going to see Josh Allen with a lot more carries. I think he only had 2 carries last week. Don't 100% quote me on that, but I think that's the number. He's going to run the ball a lot more. It's going to be really cold, which I think does benefit the Buffalo Bills. The running game is similar, but the extra, weapon that is Josh Allen's legs, you don't know if it's coming from the running backs, Singletary, Moss, all those guys they have, or if it's coming from Josh Allen. So I like that angle. And I think the other thing we need to remember is the Bengals almost lost to a backup quarterback last week at home. They probably should have. If we're being real honest, we talked about this in the review show. if they just kick a field goal, the Bengals, instead of fumbling, I mean, they could have won, or it could have went to OT or whatever. That was the difference in the game, was the fumble that went for 7.
Yeah, like a 99-yard return by the
99
Bengals.
yard by a defensive end.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't happen, who knows if we're even having this exact matchup right now.
Yeah.
The Bills are definitely capable. Bengals obviously can play a lot better, but my angle was, if you're going to say, oh, the Bills struggled against Miami, well, the Bengals struggled a lot last week too. And this is Buffalo Bills at home. I'm all over this. I think they get it done here. I think there's a lot of ways that it can go. Again, it could be a really emotional spot. Wouldn't be shocked if we saw some DeMar Hamlin pregame or during the game or whatever. Maybe he just has a message to the team or the fans or whatever. It's going to get the people going. It's a good vibes game for Buffalo. Let's go Bills.
Yeah, and there's got to be something to be said about too, that we kind of, like I touched on a little bit earlier, that I do think the Bills fans are looking at Joe Burrow and looking at this Bengals team like that should have been us last year.
Yeah.
I know this game means a lot to them, just like it would be if they're facing KC. I'd say outside of KC, the Bengals are number 2 on their list of, like, they're just looking at this team like, hey, this is our competition. This is who we have to go through. So this game's going to be – I know it's going to be a big deal to the Bills fans. Last week, I think it was just an expected win. They were all hyped for it. Not to say they weren't hype, but I think it was just like, we expect that we're going to beat Miami. Yeah. This game, they know it could be a little bit more difficult. They're going to be fired up for it. So I think it'll be a really good game in general, but I think the Bills can pull away. So next game I'm going to go to is one that I'm excited to break down, because obviously we have PG's investment in this.
Oh, huge.
We're going to go to this Cowboys and 49ers game. I'm going to take under 46 points in this game. This was a game that, me and PG, when the lines came out, like, one of the first things I said is, man, look at that under, like, especially after last week where we saw so many overs. I think there's a lot of reason to believe we see some unders this week. And specifically in this game, that's a ton of points for 2 top 5 scoring defenses. Obviously, I talked a lot about San Francisco. They're number 1 in the league in scoring defense. They only allow 16.7 points per game, which is, like, ridiculous. But we have to give some credit to that Dallas defense too. They've only allowed 19.8 points per game, so 2 top 5 scoring defenses. Dallas looked really good in that game against the Bucs last week, and I spoke so much about that defense and how they were all over Brady. Brady was, all kinds of frustrated. He looked rattled in the pocket last week, and I love to see that out of that Dallas defense. But with that said, San Francisco, after a tough start against Seattle last week, really turned it up in the second half. They damn near pitched a shutout in the second half against Seattle. They allowed that 6 points, late in the fourth quarter, I believe it was. But they damn near almost shut Seattle out, and that's the defense I would expect out of San Francisco this week. I just think 46 points is too much. Everybody's kind of high on these, overs this week after seeing so many last week. But I do think this is kind of a grinded out game, especially, with how good those defenses are.
Yeah, for sure. I don't hate that play at all. I think I have a play on this game too, but I think we do see some more unders this week. I think teams get a little tighter the further we go into the playoffs too. I could play into it a little bit. We'll see. So I've got a different play on this game. I'm doing it though. Cowboys +4 here. And first of all, that's a decent amount of points. That's more than a field goal. Some places have it at 3.5, but again, that's a similar number, more than a field goal. And that's kind of a key number. I don't even know if the Cowboys win this. It's tough. How good the 49ers defense is. I really think Dallas is going to have an almost impossible time running the ball. But I will say, if the Cowboys start running the ball really well, it's probably a time to take the Cowboys live, because if the Cowboys can run, then they keep that San Francisco offense off the field. They give their defense plenty of time to make adjustments and rest. They just kind of control that clock, because I think the Cowboys defensive line has a decent chance of kind of wrecking this game. You look across that line, there's 3, 4, 5 guys. Any given play can make a big difference.
Yeah.
You get a couple sacks on a young quarterback, just shake his confidence a little, which this is a really deep defense all the way, all 3 levels. They didn't play that well later on in the season, but they've had a great first game in the playoffs, and that's kind of the defense I expect to see here. So I'm going Cowboys +4, half homer play, half. Like, I actually think it is a good play. Nobody's really talking about it. I think a lot more people are on San Francisco in this one, but like the more money's with the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check, but that's another big reason for me to like it.
Yeah. No, so I'm looking at it right now. We have 62% of the bets coming in on San Francisco, but 73% of the money on Dallas.
Wow.
That's
way
as
more than I
sharp as it
thought.
gets. Yeah, that's as sharp as it gets. And I want to say it was you that said right off the bat when that line came out, you were like, man, Cowboys is really it's really sharp. You hadn't even seen the percentages. The lines had just come out
Yeah.
start of this week, and you were like, dude, like Cowboys look really good. Because to the general public, everybody is really high on San Francisco. I want to say like they're the third highest favorite right now as far as
Yeah, they're
odds go to
first
win the
in the
Super Bowl.
NFC though.
Yeah,
They're the
and so that's
highest
the
NFC
thing.
team.
Like
Yep.
everybody would expect San Francisco should roll. Like people think they're the best team in the NFC. Why would this spread be only 4 points? Like that makes no sense to a lot of casual fans.
Yeah.
That's the trap that they get you in. So I wouldn't be shocked if this game found its way in that kind of. Even if the Cowboys did lose, it would be by like 3 or less.
Right, just a really close game.
Yeah.
That's all when you take a number as big as 4, that's all you're looking for is just a good game. So nothing wrong with that. Now, I will also say, and everyone that listens to this pod knows already, but I did sprinkle the money line at 170 plus 175 for the Cowboys, I think.
Yep.
So you can still get it pretty close to that. So I think that's decent, but it would be a great day. But I'm just thinking, if nothing else, the Cowboys just keep it close.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot, man. I might have to tail you on that just because
For
it
the
wouldn't be a
vibes.
bad idea to have something else on that game just in case the under doesn't go my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
All right,
sure.
you're up. You're up.
Oh yeah, so that's all I got as far as my play. So if you got, I know you said you had one more.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I am ready. My next pick, we're going to go backwards and we're going to go to Jacksonville Jags at Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking the Jags plus 9 here. Just think it's too many points. I think the Jags end up running the ball well here with ETN. They're going to use Lawrence's legs a little bit more. We haven't really seen that too much so far, especially later in this season, but he's capable. We've seen on some of these little scrambles he does when he gets out of the pocket, just pick up the first down, get out of bounds kind of guy. That puts so much stress on a defense. I wouldn't be shocked if this played out kind of like, remember that Jaguars team that made it to like the AFC Championship, where it just seemed like they were running the ball really well. They just had the ball all the time. I wouldn't be shocked if this game kind of plays out that way. And it's really tough for the home crowd to get up when their offense is just on the sidelines the whole time. Jags got a great defensive line. I still don't know how good the Chiefs' offensive line is. It's around, I mean, you would think a little above average at this point if you make it this far. But this Jags defensive line doesn't get enough respect. It's good defense there from the Jaguars. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs probably still move on, but 9 points is a lot in the playoffs. Back doors open.
Oh, yeah.
There's always a chance for an upset. Plus 9 with the underdog.
Yeah, with that many points, and that goes probably for, 2 games this weekend with that game as well as the Giants and Eagles game, where you're getting over 7-point spreads. Because I want to say Giants are plus 7.5, and then you also have now the Jacksonville game. Both those games, backdoor is wide open. I mean, we could have a 14-point lead late where there's no threat by the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game. Like zero threat. Same thing could go with the Giants, and we see a late touchdown or whatever the case. So those are things to keep in mind, especially in the playoffs. Teams don't want to just accept an L if they're down 14 and they get the ball back. They want to get a touchdown. They want to end their season
out on
right.
top.
They always are pressing for that stuff. So it wouldn't be a bad idea if you're somebody that likes kind of having the back door and doesn't mind taking some, a lot of points on a team that probably is not going to be the favorite public play. Take that, man, and just see what happens.
Absolutely. Okay, so we need to throw together a pod parlay. We do need to mention we should have hit last week. We should have. I'm throwing up and crying. Like the game was kind of overwhelming because I had people over. We won. Things were going really well. It took me a second to realize. I knew the over didn't hit, but it took me a second to realize if we'd have just hit any of those extra points, we hit it. We also missed a 2-point conversion at some point in that game. The Bucks did. So we should have won it, and the people deserve better. We're hitting a winner this week. Do you want to lead us off on the pod parlay?
Yeah, so I will lead off. I'm going to go with the Bills minus 5.5 as my play. And a thing I didn't really mention with that play, and probably what I should have led with because we always like going into our numbers, is that the Bengals are getting 66% of bets right now. but the Bills are getting 61% of the money. So similar to how we said with that Cowboys line, Bengals are getting slammed by the public. Everybody's like, wait a minute, you're giving Burrow 5.5 points. That sounds like so much. That's what the public is going to do. That's what Vegas wants you to believe. They want you to think, okay, I'm going to take, the reigning AFC champs. We're going to take 5.5 points. Something's fishy about that line. It feels like it should be closer to a lot of people. We're going to ride with the Bills. I think them at home, they're going to be a little bit more motivated. And a lot of signs that are telling me this is the sharp play. So we're going to go Bills minus 5.5.
I think so too. I'm all over it, minus 5.5. And then I'm going to go with our other sharp play. We'll just throw in Cowboys +4. I think it's the right play, man. And I think it's one of those things. I don't think I'm getting overconfident with my team. I just think it's more, I'm trying to look at the signs. And just from a gambling perspective, even that we already talked about the numbers that are in our direction with all that money being on our side. I think it's over 35% more money to bets or something like that. So we'd love to see it. That's right around plus 260. If you parlay the Bills and the Cowboys, you could throw those in a teaser, and that would be really fun.
Not a bad idea.
Cowboys +10. The Bills basically just have to win the game. Be like minus a half point or whatever, plus a half point, I guess, which wouldn't mean anything, but you could throw it in a teaser. You could do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So I love it. Cowboys, Bills. That's a Sunday parlay as well, which would be really fun. But yeah, great episode. Do you kind of have any thoughts to wrap it up? I know we're going to try to do some Twitter spaces and stuff, but
yeah, make sure to lock in on these Twitter spaces, guys. If you guys are listening to the podcast and you guys don't have much going on, like right before the game or even during, just, like PG said on the show last week, put the alerts on for PG's, tweets, or not necessarily tweets, but for
it's
the spaces.
live. I think it says live or maybe it says spaces, but yeah, you can
something
do
along those
spaces.
lines. Yeah. So do that and make sure to tune in just because it is some good talk. And like, we have a lot of fun. Last week we had Southie Sharp on there doing shots. We had PG doing some Pink Whitney shots on there. There are a lot of good vibes from everybody, man. It's a good conversation. It's a lot more, less structured than we probably are with the podcast. So we're just anything goes in a certain sense. I mean, we don't want it to get too crazy or get us. Canceled.
We've had it get a little too crazy.
Yeah, we don't want to get canceled out here, but we're having fun out there. It's a good time. So make sure to tune in if you guys have a minute, man.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be really fun, and hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. I know we're going to enjoy ours. Lots of good football on, so stay locked in. We'll be back with the recap show next Tuesday morning. I think that's right. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace out.